Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into a pretty wild story where a 66-year-old programming language, a brand new AI, and a single blog post all collided to create a massive shock on Wall Street. Let's start with this number right here, $40 billion. Yeah, that's how much value was just wiped from the tech giant IBM. It was their worst stock market drop in over a quarter of a century. I mean, just a truly staggering loss. So what on earth could trigger that level of panic? A huge data breach? Some kind of failed product launch? Nope. The trigger was a blog post, a post claiming that artificial intelligence had finally cracked a problem that has been plaguing the tech world for decades. Okay, so let's get into it and meet the main character in our story, a programming language called COBOL. So COBOL, in technology years, this thing is an absolute dinosaur. It was designed way back in 1959, partly based on the work of the legendary Grace Hopper, to be this super reliable English-like workhorse for business. Things like payroll, transactions, all that administrative stuff. And this is where it gets kinda nuts. You might think it's obsolete, right? But it is quietly running the infrastructure of our entire modern world. You almost certainly used it today without even having a clue. And just look at the scale of its influence. It's estimated that 95% of all ATM transactions and 80% of in-person card swipes are powered by COBOL systems. It really is the invisible backbone of global finance. And this just shows you how deep its roots go. There are an estimated 250 billion lines of COBOL code still actively being used today across the world's most critical institutions. We're talking banks, airlines, and government agencies. And almost all of it is running on IBM mainframe computers. So you're probably thinking, okay, if COBOL has worked so well for so long, what's the big deal? Well, this is why it's considered a ticking time bomb for the entire global economy. So these huge organizations, they're basically caught in a trap. On one hand, the COBOL code works incredibly well, but on the other hand, trying to replace it is an absolute nightmare. Past projects have cost billions and ended in total system meltdowns. And what's worse, the generation of programmers who actually understand this code, well, they're retiring, and fast. You remember during the pandemic when state unemployment systems were buckling under the pressure? They had to put out emergency calls for COBOL programmers to come out of retirement just to keep things running. And this is the exact trap that a new AI tool from the startup Anthropic claims it can finally break. Anthropic's argument is really simple, but it's profound. They say the hardest, most expensive part of moving off COBOL isn't actually writing the new code. No, it's the years of manual work it takes for human developers to simply understand what the billions of lines of old, often undocumented code are really doing. And you can see the revolution Anthropic is proposing right here with its AI, which is called Claude Code. We're talking about projects that would have taken years, cost millions of dollars, and carried immense risk, now potentially being done in weeks for a fraction of the cost and with way less danger of breaking something critical. So how does it actually work? Well, instead of humans spending ages trying to decipher the old code, the AI just does it automatically. It scans everything, figures out how it all connects, pulls out the essential business rules, and then translates that logic into a modern blueprint that today's developers can actually work with. This potential breakthrough brings us right back to the beginning, the panic around IBM. See, a huge part of IBM's business is built on selling and servicing the exact mainframe systems that run all this COBOL code. So if an AI can automate the process of moving off of those mainframes, it threatens a core pillar of their revenue. But the market's reaction tells you everything. Investors believe this isn't just about COBOL or IBM. They see this as the first shot in a massive AI-driven disruption across the entire tech landscape. And here's the proof. A major software index has plunged 27% this year. That's its steepest quarterly drop since the 2008 financial crisis. This fear isn't isolated. It's systemic. We are now seeing a new and pretty predictable pattern emerge. An AI company announces a tool that automates some complex, expensive task, and almost immediately investors dump the stocks of the established companies whose business models rely on selling services to do that exact task manually. We're seeing it in cybersecurity, in IT consulting, really all across enterprise software. So the big takeaway here is that Wall Street isn't waiting around to see if these AI claims hold up at a huge scale. The market has already decided the era of expensive, multi-year legacy tech projects is over. And that leaves all of us with a critical question about the future.
If AI can unravel 60 years of code this quickly, what other unsolvable problem is about to be solved next?